The market of Valora was loud and colorful. Aliens of all shapes walked between the stalls. They sold strange fruits, glowing crystals, and weapons made of metals that did not exist on Earth. The twin suns hung low in the purple sky, casting long shadows across the stone streets. Nyra walked through the crowd with her head held high. She was tall, even for a Velen. Her blue skin shone under the sunlight. Her white hair was tied back in the style of warriors. People moved out of her way. They knew who she was. She was the daughter of a war hero. She was a commander in the planetary guard. She was respected, but behind her walked her shame. Tejo followed 3 steps behind his wife. He was short compared to her. His skin was the strange pale color of humans. His dark hair fell over his eyes. He carried no weapon. He wore simple clothes. He looked at the ground as he walked. 2 Velen merchants watched them pass. One of them laughed. "There goes the great Nira," he said loudly. "And her pet human." "I heard he cannot even speak," the other one said. "Just follows her like a shadow." Nira's hands turned into fists. But she did not stop. She did not turn around. She kept walking. Tejo heard everything. His face did not change. He kept following his wife. This was their life. It had been this way for 3 years. When they reached their home, Nira finally let out her anger. She threw her bag on the table. The dishes shook. "Why, you never say anything?" she asked. Her voice was tired. "They mock you every day. They mock me. And you just walk behind me like you are deaf." Tejo sat down quietly. He looked at her with calm eyes. "Words are wind," he said softly. "That is all you ever say." Nira walked to the window. She looked out at the city. "I do not understand you, Tejo. I have tried for 3 years. I have tried so hard." She remembered the day she first saw him. It was at the peace meeting between Earth and Valora. The humans had come to sign treaties. Most of them were loud and full of energy. But one man stood in the corner, silent and still. He watched everything but said nothing. Her father had arranged the marriage. It was political, a symbol of friendship between their worlds. Nira had agreed because she trusted her father. She thought maybe this quiet human had hidden depths. Maybe he was a scholar or a thinker. But 3 years had passed, and Tejo was still a mystery. He never talked about his past. He never showed anger or fear. He spent his nights on the roof, looking up at the stars. Sometimes he held a long object wrapped in old cloth. Nira had asked about it once. He had simply said, "A memory." That night, Nira could not sleep. She walked to the roof and found Tejo sitting there, as always. The wrapped object lay across his knees. He was looking toward a small star in the eastern sky. "That is Earth's sun," she said, sitting beside him. "Yes. Do you miss it?" Tejo was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I miss who I lost there." It was more than he usually said. Nira felt her heart soften. "Who did you lose?" "My sister, Hannah." His voice was barely a whisper. "She gave me this before she died." He touched the wrapped object gently. "What is it?" "A sword. Very old. It belonged to our family for many generations." Nira looked at the shape under the cloth. "Why do you never use it? Why do you never fight?" Tejo turned to look at her. In the starlight, his eyes looked deep and old, much older than his young face. "Because I am afraid of what I become when I fight." Nira did not understand, but something in his voice made her stop asking questions. The next morning, Elder Youngsik came to visit. He was the oldest human on Valora. His hair was white and his back was bent, but his eyes were sharp. He was one of the few people Tejo seemed comfortable with. They sat in the garden while Nira trained nearby. She could hear bits of their conversation. "The young ones are doing well," Youngsik said. You are a good teacher. I only show them how to survive, Taeho replied. You show them more than that. You show them how to be strong without being cruel. The old man paused. Like you used to be. Nira stopped her training. She pretended to check her weapon, but she was listening carefully. That man is dead, Taeho said. Is he? Or is he just sleeping? Taeho did not answer. That evening, a messenger came to their door. His face was pale with fear. He handed Nira a sealed document and ran away without waiting for a reply. Nira opened it. Her hands began to shake. What is it? Taeho asked. The Karath Empire. Her voice was hollow. Their war fleet has been spotted. They are coming to Valora. They will be here in 3 days. The Karath were known across the galaxy. They did not conquer planets. They destroyed them. They left nothing behind but ash and silence. Nira looked at her husband. For the first time, she saw something flicker in his eyes. Something cold and hard. Taeho? He stood up slowly. He walked to the corner where the wrapped sword leaned against the wall. He picked it up and held it for a long moment. I hoped this day would never come, he said quietly. What do you mean? But he did not answer. He just held the sword close to his chest, and somewhere deep inside the old cloth, Nira thought she heard a faint hum, like the blade itself was waking up from a long sleep. Outside, the first emergency alarms began to ring across the city. The city of Valora changed in one night. The colorful markets closed. The music stopped. Instead, soldiers marched through the streets. Families packed their belongings and headed for the underground shelters. Children cried as their parents carried them away from their homes. Nira had not slept. She spent the whole night at the military command center, planning the defense with other commanders. The news was bad. The Karath fleet had 40 warships. Valora had only 12. The math was simple and cruel. When she came home at dawn, she found Taeho sitting at the table. He had made tea. 2 cups sat waiting. You should have slept, she said, taking a cup. So should you. They sat together in silence. Outside, transport ships flew overhead, evacuating the outer districts. I need to lead the defense at the temple gate, Nira said, finally. It is the last line before the civilian shelters. If we fall there, everyone dies. Taeho nodded slowly. I want you to evacuate with the others, she continued. The transport leaves in 2 hours. Go to the moon base. You will be safe there. Taeho looked at her. His eyes were calm but firm. No, this is not a discussion. You are not a fighter. You will die here. Then I will die here. Nira slammed her cup on the table. Tea spilled everywhere. Why? Why are you so stubborn? For 3 years, you have been silent and soft. Now suddenly you want to be brave? This is not the time for heroics. Taeho stood up. He was shorter than her, but in that moment, something about him seemed larger, heavier. I made a promise, he said quietly. A long time ago. I promised I would never let someone I loved die while I ran away. Nira stared at him. Someone you love? Taeho looked away. Go prepare for your battle. I will be fine. He walked out of the room before she could say anything else. Later that day, Nira went looking for Taeho. She found him at the old training hall near the edge of the city. What she saw there made her stop in her tracks. 20 young Velen children stood in rows. They were between 8 and 12 years old. Too young to evacuate alone, too young to fight. But there they were, following Taeho's movements. He moved slowly, showing them simple poses. How to stand, how to balance, how to breathe. When you are afraid, Taeho said in his quiet voice, your body freezes. But if you breathe deep here, he touched his stomach, the fear becomes smaller. You can think. You can move. You can survive. A small girl raised her hand. Teacher, are the bad aliens going to kill us? Tejo knelt down to look at her. Not if you are smart and brave. And not if people like Commander Nera fight for you. Are you going to fight too? Tejo was silent for a moment. If I have to. Nera watched from the doorway. Her heart felt strange. This was a Tejo she had never seen. He was gentle with the children, patient, but there was something else underneath. Something that knew about violence and death. Something that had seen too much. That night, Elder Young-sik came to their home again. This time, his face was serious. The fleet will arrive tomorrow, he said. Commander Drax himself is leading them. He has never lost a battle. He has destroyed 11 worlds. Nera's jaw tightened. We will fight until the end. I know you will. Young-sik turned to Tejo. And you? What will you do? Tejo sat by the window, the wrapped sword in his hands. I do not know yet. You know exactly what you will do. The old man's voice was hard. You just do not want to admit it. I swore I would never draw this sword again. And if she dies? If those children die, will your promise keep you warm then? Tejo closed his eyes. His hands trembled slightly on the cloth. Nera looked between them. What are you two talking about? What promise? What is this sword? Young-sik sighed. Nera, your husband is not who you think he is. Then who is he? The old man looked at Tejo, waiting for permission. Tejo stayed silent. Very well. If he will not tell you, I will. Young-sik sat down heavily. On Earth, there was a great war. We called it the Border Wars. Millions died. Cities burned. It was the worst time in human history. Nera knew about the war. All aliens knew. It was one of the reasons humans were seen as dangerous and unstable. During that war, Young-sik continued, there was a soldier. He was young, but he was the most deadly fighter anyone had ever seen. He moved like smoke. He killed without sound. The enemy called him the Ghost. He ended the war almost single-handedly. Nera looked at Tejo. He had not moved. His eyes were still closed. After the war, the Ghost disappeared. He threw away his medals. He refused to speak of what he had done. He wanted to become someone else. Someone peaceful. Someone quiet. Young-sik's voice softened. He wanted to bury the monster inside him. Nera's mouth was dry. You are saying Tejo is the ghost of Earth, the most dangerous human who ever lived. And that sword in his hands is not an ordinary weapon. It was made from metal that fell from the sky thousands of years ago. Metal that does not exist anywhere else. When the ghost holds it, when he truly fights. The old man shook his head. I have seen it once. I still have nightmares. The room was silent. Nera could hear her own heartbeat. Tejo opened his eyes. He looked at Nera with something like pain. I did not want you to know, he said. I did not want to be that man anymore. I wanted to be someone you could love, not someone you would fear. Nera stood up. She walked to him slowly. She knelt down and took his face in her hands. I married a mystery, she said. Now I know the truth, and I am not afraid. Tejo's eyes glistened. You should be. Maybe. But we are out of time for fear. Outside, the first Korath ships appeared in the night sky. They looked like metal sharks swimming through the stars. Dozens of them. Blocking out the moon's dot, Tejo looked down at the sword in his hands. The cloth had become loose. A hint of silver blade peeked through. And deep inside, the metal began to hum. A low, hungry sound. The ghost was waking up. The sky burned red as the Korath dropships fell through the atmosphere. They came down like metal rain, hundreds of them, crashing into the fields outside the city. Each ship carried 50 soldiers. The ground shook with their impact. Nenir stood at the temple gate with 300 Velen warriors. They were the best fighters on the planet. They wore armor made of hardened crystal. They carried plasma rifles and energy blades. They were ready to die for their world. But as the first wave of Korath soldiers marched toward them, Nira felt fear. The Korath were huge. Each one stood nearly 3 meters tall. Their bodies were covered in black scales. Their eyes burned orange like fire. They carried weapons that could cut through steel like paper. "Hold the line," Nira shouted. "For Valora. For our families." The Velen warriors screamed back. Their courage was real. But courage alone could not stop an army. The battle began. Plasma fire lit up the morning. Velen soldiers fell. Korath soldiers fell. But for every Korath that died, 3 Velen died. The math was cruel. The outcome was clear. Nira fought like a demon. Her energy blade cut through enemy after enemy. But they kept coming. An endless wave of black scales and burning eyes. A Korath general pushed through the line. He was bigger than the others. His armor was gold and red. He carried a massive hammer that crackled with electricity. "Which one of you is the commander?" He roared. "I want to kill your leader first." Nira stepped forward. "I am the commander." The general laughed. "A female? How disappointing. This will not even be fun." He swung his hammer. Nira blocked with her blade. The impact sent her flying back. She hit the ground hard. Her vision blurred. The general walked toward her slowly. "Your world will burn. Your people will be slaves. And you will die knowing you failed them all." He raised his hammer for the killing blow. A shadow moved. Something silver flashed. Through the air, the general's hammer fell from his hands. So did his hands. He looked down at the stumps where his wrists used to be. Black blood poured out. Before he could scream, the silver flash came again. His head separated from his body. It rolled across the ground, orange eyes still wide with shock. Silence. Total silence. Every soldier on both sides stopped fighting. They all looked at the same spot. Te-Ho stood over the general's body. In his hands was a sword. It was beautiful and terrible. The blade was silver, but it glowed with pale blue fire. Ancient symbols ran along its edge. They pulsed with light like a heartbeat. Teho's eyes had changed. They were not the calm, sad eyes Nira knew. They were cold, empty. The eyes of a man who had killed thousands and could kill thousands more. A Korath soldier raised his rifle. Teho moved. 1 second he was standing still. The next second the soldier was dead, cut in half from shoulder to hip. Another soldier charged. Teho did not even look. His sword moved by itself, guided by instinct and memory. The soldier fell. 3 more came together. They lasted 2 seconds. What is that thing? A Korath officer screamed. Kill it now." 20 soldiers rushed at Teho at once. He moved through them like water through rocks. His blade sang. Blue fire traced patterns in the air. Bodies fell. Not one soldier touched him. The Korath army stopped advancing. For the first time in their history, they hesitated. Teho stood in the middle of the carnage. He was breathing slowly. His sword hummed softly. He looked at the remaining Korath soldiers. "Anyone who touches her," he said quietly, "dies." His voice was soft, but somehow every soldier heard it. The words seemed to echo across the entire battlefield. Nira pushed herself up. Her arm was broken. Her face was bloody, but she could not stop staring at her husband. She remembered his words from last night. He had said he was afraid of what he became when he fought. Now she understood. This was not fighting. This was art. Terrible, beautiful art. Every movement was perfect. Every cut was precise. He wasted nothing. He felt nothing. He was a machine made for death. The Vellum warriors rallied behind him. Their fear turned to hope. They shouted and charged. The Korath fell back, but Teho did not celebrate. He walked through the battle like a ghost. Where he went, enemies died. He did not shout or rage. He simply moved and cut, over and over. The sword in his hands blazed brighter. It fed on the battle. It remembered ancient wars fought thousands of years ago on a distant blue planet. It remembered blood and honor and death, and it remembered the last time someone had wielded it with such skill. Inside Teho's mind, memories flooded back. He saw his sister Hana lying in the ruins of their family home. Earth was falling apart around them. The sky was black with smoke. She was dying from wounds that no medicine could heal. "Take the sword," she had whispered. "It chose you, brother. It always knew you were the one. I do not want it. I do not want to fight anymore. Then do not fight for war. Fight for love. Fight for the people you want to protect." She had pressed the blade into his hands. Her fingers were cold. "Promise me. Promise you will not let it consume you. Use it to protect, not to destroy. I promise." She had smiled. And then she was gone. Now, standing in the middle of an alien battlefield, Teho felt the sword trying to pull him deeper. It wanted more death. It was hungry, but he saw Nira being helped to safety by her soldiers. He saw the young children he had trained, hiding in the shelters below. He remembered his promise. The cold emptiness in his eyes flickered. Just for a moment, he was Teho again. Not the ghost, not the demon, just a man trying to protect the people he loved. The Korath retreated from the temple gate. They had lost 300 soldiers in minutes. Mostly the one human. Commander Drax watched from his ship in orbit. His screen showed the battle footage. He watched the small human cut through his best soldiers like they were made of paper. "What is that?" he asked quietly. "A human, sir," his officer said. "Just a human. That is not just a human." Drax leaned forward. His eyes narrowed. "That is something else entirely." He smiled slowly. It was not a nice smile. "I want him. Bring him to me. Or bring me his head." On the ground below, Teho finally stopped. The battle was over. The gate was saved. But he knew this was only the beginning. He looked down at his sword. The blue fire faded. The blade became silver again. But it still hummed softly. Still hungry. Still waiting. The ghost had awakened. And now the real war was about to begin. The story spread faster than fire. By nightfall, every soldier on both sides knew about the human at the temple gate. The Vellum called him the Blue Blade. The Korath called him the human demon. In the underground shelters, children whispered to each other. "They say he killed 100 enemies in 1 minute." "No, it was 200. I heard his sword is made of starlight." "Is it true he is Commander Nira's husband? The quiet one who never speaks?" The legends grew with each telling. But the truth was somehow stranger than the stories. Nira lay in the medical tent. Her broken arm was wrapped in healing gel. Machines beeped around her, but she could not rest. She kept thinking about what she had seen. Teho sat outside the tent. His clothes were covered in dried blood. None of it was his. The sword lay across his knees, wrapped in cloth again. He had not spoken since the battle. Elder Yongsik found him there. "How many?" the old man asked. "I did not count. The reports say over 200. Teho closed his eyes. "That is too many. It is what was needed. That does not make it right." Teho's voice was tired, heavy with old pain. "Every kill takes something from you, a piece you never get back. I thought I had paid enough. I thought I was empty. But there's always more to lose. Young Sikh sat down beside him. Your sister would be proud. My sister wanted me to protect, not to slaughter. What is the difference when enemies come to kill everyone you love? Tejo had no answer. The next morning, the Karath attacked again. But this time, they did not send regular soldiers. They sent the Black Fang. The Black Fang were Commander Drax's personal assassins. Each one had been engineered for killing. They were faster than normal Korath, stronger, smarter. They had never failed a mission. There were 12 of them. Te-Ho met them alone. The Vellum soldiers wanted to help. Mira, her arm still healing, demanded to fight beside him. Tejo refused. This is not your battle, he said. They are here for me. If I fall, you can still defend the city. If you fall here, your people lose their best commander. I am not going to watch my husband die. Then close your eyes. He touched her face gently. For one moment, he was the soft, quiet man she had married. I never told you this, but I am glad it was you. Of all the people in all the worlds, I am glad I got to love you. Before she could respond, he turned and walked toward the waiting Black Fang. 12 against 1. The Black Fang spread out in a circle around him. They were confident. They had studied the battle footage. They knew his patterns, or they thought they did. Tejo unwrapped his sword slowly. The blue fire ignited. The ancient metal sang. I am the one called Ghost, he said. His voice was calm, empty. I killed 10,000 soldiers during Earth's border wars. I ended the war in one night by walking into the enemy capital alone and cutting down everyone between me and their leaders. The Black Fang shifted nervously. Their confidence cracked. I do not want to kill you, Tejo continued. I am tired of killing, but you have come to hurt people I love. So I will give you one chance. Leave now. Tell your commander that Valora is not worth the cost. The lead Black Fang laughed. It was a forced sound. One human cannot threaten the Korath Empire. One human ended a war that armies could not win. Tejo raised his sword. Last chance. The Black Fang attacked. They were fast. Faster than anything Tejo had ever fought. Their blades were black energy that could cut through anything. They moved as one, coordinated perfectly. It was not enough. Tejo danced between them. His sword was everywhere. Blue fire traced patterns in the air. The Black Fang could not touch him. He was too fast, too precise. Every move he made was perfect. Every cut was deadly, but they were not easy prey. One of them managed to slash his shoulder. Another cut his leg. He was bleeding, slowing down. The lead Black Fang saw the weakness. He pressed the attack. Tejo stumbled. His knee hit the ground. The Black Fang raised his blade for the killing strike. Tejo looked up. His eyes changed. The last trace of warmth disappeared. What remained was something older, darker. The true ghost. He moved. The lead Black Fang froze. He looked down at the sword buried in his chest. He tried to speak. Blood came out instead. Te-Ho pulled the blade free and spun in one motion. 3 more Black Fang fell before they could react. The remaining assassins panicked. They broke formation. They tried to run. None of them made it. When it was over, Tejo stood in a circle of bodies. He was wounded in a dozen places. Blood dripped from his arms and face. But he was alive. He looked up at the sky where Drax's command ship floated among the clouds. Your turn, he whispered from the ship. Commander Drax watched through telescopes. He had seen everything. His best assassins, the soldiers who had killed hundreds, had lasted less than 3 minutes against one human. Impossible, his officer said. This is impossible. No, Drax stood up slowly. This is humanity. We underestimated them. We thought they were soft because they looked weak. We thought they were harmless because they were small. He laughed bitterly. We were fools. He made a decision. Bring me the female commander, the one called Nira. If we cannot beat the demon, we will trap him. That night, Korath Special Forces infiltrated the Velen camps. They bypassed the defenses using technology no one had seen before. They moved through the shadows like ghosts. They found Nira in her tent, thought she fought. She killed 3 of them, but there were too many. They hit her with a stun beam. Her body went limp. They carried her away into the darkness. When Teho found out, something inside him went quiet. The tired, wounded man disappeared. The ghost looked out through his eyes. Where did they take her? His voice was flat, dead. A Velen scout pointed toward the sky. Drax's command ship. The big one in the center of the fleet? Teho nodded. He picked up his sword. He walked toward the landing zone where a single Korath shuttle sat abandoned. Wait. Elder Yongsik ran after him. You cannot go alone. The ship has thousands of soldiers. You will die. Teho looked back. His eyes were empty. But somewhere deep inside, a small fire burned. Maybe, he said, but they will die first. He climbed into the shuttle. The engines roared. The ship lifted off into the sky, heading toward the heart of the enemy fleet. The ghost was going to war. The stolen shuttle flew through the Korath fleet. Warships surrounded it on all sides. Any moment, they could blow it out of the sky. But Drax had given orders. Let the human come. He wanted to see the demon up close. Teho landed in the main hangar of the command ship. The doors opened. 100 Korath soldiers waited for him, weapons raised. He stepped out slowly. His sword was still wrapped in cloth. His wounds from the Black Fang fight had barely stopped bleeding. He looked small, weak, human. Surrender your weapon, the lead officer said. Commander Drax wishes to speak with you. Teho let them take him. They marched him through the massive ship. Corridors stretched in every direction. Thousands of soldiers watched him pass. Some laughed. Some spat at him. Some just stared with curious eyes. One human, alone, walking calmly to his death. They brought him to the command center. It was a huge room filled with screens and controls. In the center stood Commander Drax. Drax was massive. Even for a Korath, he was big. His scales were deep black. His eyes burned like twin suns. Scars covered his face and arms. Each scar was a trophy from a battle won. And beside him, held by 2 guards, was Nira. Her face was bruised. Her armor was gone, but her eyes were still fierce. When she saw Teho, they filled with tears. You fool, she whispered. Why did you come? Drax laughed. He came for love. How touching. How human. Teho looked only at Nira. Are you hurt? Nothing serious. Teho, please. Quiet. Drax waved his hand. A guard hit Nira across the face. She fell silent. Teho's jaw tightened. But he did not move. So you are the famous ghost, Drax said, walking around him slowly. The human who killed my Black Fang. The demon who cut down 200 of my soldiers. He stopped in front of Teho. You do not look like a demon. You look like a scared little creature. Let her go, Teho said quietly. This is between you and me. Between us? Drax laughed again. Human, there's nothing between us. You are an insect. A curiosity. I brought you here to watch you beg. To show my soldiers that humans are nothing special. He grabbed Nira by the hair and pulled her forward. He pressed a blade to her throat. Drop your weapon. Kneel before me. Beg for her life. Do this, and maybe I will kill you quickly. Teho looked at the blade against Nira's skin. He looked at the guards around the room. He looked at Drax. Then he unwrapped his sword. The blue fire did not ignite. The blade was dark, cold. He let it fall to the floor. It clattered against the metal. Drax smiled. Good. Now kneel. Tejo went to his knees. Please, he said softly. Do not hurt her. Every Korath in the room relaxed. The demon was broken. The legend was a lie. Humans were weak. After all, Drax removed the blade from Nira's throat. He pushed her aside and walked toward Tejo. Look at you. Pathetic. All that power. All those kills. And in the end, you crawl on your knees for a female. He raised his blade. I will take your head myself. It will make a fine trophy. Nira screamed. No. Drax swung. Tejo moved. One moment he was kneeling. The next moment he was standing behind Drax. The commander's blade hit nothing but air. Drax spun around, confused. Then he screamed. His arm was broken, twisted at an impossible angle. His own blade was in Tejo's hand. Tejo pressed the blade against Drax's throat. I do not need the sword to kill you, he said softly. The room exploded into chaos. Guards raised their weapons. Officers shouted orders. Stop. Drax commanded. Blood poured from his ruined arm. Everyone stop. The room froze. Tejo spoke into the silence. His voice was calm, almost gentle. Commander, you made a mistake. You thought the sword was what made me dangerous. You thought if I dropped it, I would be helpless. He pressed the blade deeper. A thin line of black blood appeared on Drax's throat. The sword is just metal. I am the weapon. I've always been the weapon. Nira had grabbed a fallen rifle. She stood behind Tejo, covering him. Let me kill him, she said, for what he did to our world. Tejo shook his head. No, why not? Because my sister asked me to fight for love, not for death. Because killing him will not bring back the people we lost. Because I am tired of being a ghost. He looked at Drax. The commander's eyes were wide with fear. The most powerful warlord in the sector, afraid of one small human. You will take your fleet and leave, Tejo said. You will never return to Valora. You will tell everyone in your empire what happened here. Tell them that Earth's children look weak, but we are not prey. We are not victims. We protect what we love until our last breath. Drax stared at him. And if I refuse, then I will visit each of your 40 ships personally. I will walk through every corridor. I will find every soldier, every officer, every crew member. And when I am done, your empire will have nothing left but empty ships floating in the dark. The words were quiet, but every Korath heard them, and every Korath believed them. Drax lowered his head. Take your female. Take your planet. We will leave. Tejo released him. He walked to Nira and took her hand. Let us go home. They walked out of the command center together. No one tried to stop them. No one even moved. That night, the Korath fleet left Valora's orbit. 40 warships turned and flew away into the darkness between stars. They never came back. 1 year later, life on Valora had returned to normal. The markets were colorful again. The music played. Children laughed in the streets dotted at the edge of the city. In a small house with a garden, Tejo sat with a group of children. Human and Velen sat together. He was showing them how to breathe, how to stay calm, how to find strength inside themselves. The sword hung above the fireplace. It was wrapped in cloth, silent, sleeping. Nira watched from the doorway. Her arm had healed. The scars on her face had faded, but she still remembered everything. He speaks more now, she told Elder Yongsik, who sat beside her. Not much, but enough. He found peace, the old man said. After all those years, after all that death, he finally found what he was looking for, What was that? A reason to live. Not just to fight. Not just to survive. But to truly live. Mira smiled. She walked into the garden and sat beside her husband. The children continued their lesson around them. Tejo looked at her. His eyes were warm. The coldness of the ghost was gone. "I love you," he said quietly. "I should have said it more before. You said it when it mattered." She leaned against him. "That is enough." Above them, Valora's twin suns set slowly. The sky turned from purple to gold to deep blue. Stars appeared one by one. Somewhere out there, across thousands of light years, other species told stories about the invasion of Valora. They talked about the blue fire and the silent human who walked alone into a warship and came out alive. The story grew with each telling, but on Valora, the truth was simpler. A quiet man had found love. He had protected it with everything he had. And then he had put down his sword and chosen to live. Some humans are loud. Some are silent. But when a silent human finally speaks, galaxies listen. And when a silent human finally loves, that love can change everything. Even the stars remember.